Have you ever looked at an old photo and spotted something that just doesn't belong? Like a smartphone in a picture from the 1940s? Well, history has its own version of these head-scratchers. They're called out-of-place artifacts, or OOP arts for short. These are objects found in archaeological sites that seem way too advanced for their time. They challenge everything we think we know about the past and make us wonder, were our ancestors much smarter than we give them credit for? So what makes an artifact mysterious or out of place? Imagine digging up a perfectly crafted metal sphere from a rock layer that's hundreds of millions of years old, long before humans were even supposed to exist. Or finding what looks like a spark plug inside a 500,000-year-old geode. These aren't just old pots and arrowheads. These are items that suggest a level of technology or knowledge that, according to our conventional timeline of history, simply shouldn't have been possible. They're like glitches in the historical matrix, forcing us to question the story we've been told about human civilization. The mystery isn't just about what they are, but asterisk when asterisk they are. They're time travelers in their own right, and they have a story to tell. Let's dive into some of the most famous examples. First up, the Antikythera mechanism. Discovered in a Roman-era shipwreck off the coast of a Greek island, this device from around 100 BC has been called the world's first analog computer. It's an incredibly complex system of over 30 interlocking bronze gears. When scientists finally figured out what it did, they were stunned. This device could predict astronomical positions and eclipses for decades in advance. It could even track the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. To put this in perspective, technology this intricate wasn't seen again in Europe for over 1,000 years. It's like finding a Renaissance-era clockmaker's workshop on a Viking ship. How did the ancient Greeks develop such a sophisticated piece of machinery? Who was the genius behind it, and why was this knowledge seemingly lost for so long? The Antikythera mechanism is a beautiful, baffling testament to a lost world of ancient engineering. Next, let's travel to ancient Egypt, a land already full of mysteries. But we're not looking at the pyramids today. We're looking at something much smaller, found in a tomb in Saqqara in 1898. It's a small wooden object that looks for all the world like a model airplane. It has a fuselage, wings, and a tail. Dubbed the Saqqara bird, it's dated to around 200 BC. For a long time it was dismissed as just a child's toy or a weather vane. But when aeronautical engineers studied its design, they found its features were surprisingly aerodynamic. Its wings are shaped to provide lift, much like a modern glider. Could this little wooden bird actually be a scale model of a real working aircraft from ancient Egypt? The idea sounds like science fiction, but the object itself is very real. It sits in the Cairo Museum, a silent puzzle. Was it just a carver's fantasy, or a clue that the ancients understood the principles of flight long before the Wright brothers? And the list goes on. Consider the Baghdad battery. Discovered in Iraq in the 1930s, these terracotta pots, dating back to around 250 BC, contain a copper cylinder and an iron rod. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, they can produce a small electrical charge, about 1 volt. Was it a battery? If so, what were the ancient Parthians using electricity for? Some theories suggest it was used for electroplating, coating objects with a thin layer of gold or silver. Others propose it was used in healing rituals to give a little tingle to the patient. Skeptics argue the pots were simply for storing scrolls. But if that's the case, why the specific combination of iron and copper, the fundamental components of a simple galvanic cell? It's another tantalizing piece of the puzzle that suggests a forgotten technological past. These artifacts do more than just fascinate us. They fundamentally challenge our perception of human history. We're often taught that progress is a straight line, an ever-upward march from primitive cave dwellers to our modern, tech-savvy selves. We see history as a linear progression: Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, and so on. But OOP-arts throw a wrench in that neat and tidy timeline. They suggest that history might be more like a series of peaks and valleys. Perhaps ancient civilizations reached incredible heights of scientific and technological achievement, only for that knowledge to be lost in the sands of time through cataclysms, wars, or the simple passage of millennia. Maybe progress isn't a straight line at all, but a cycle of discovery, loss, and rediscovery. This idea forces us to look at our ancestors with new eyes. We tend to think of them as simple or primitive, but what if they were just as curious, just as inventive, just as brilliant as we are today? Maybe they just used different tools and had different priorities. The existence of something like the Antikythera mechanism implies a deep understanding of mathematics and astronomy that rivals that of the Renaissance. The Baghdad battery hints at early experiments with electrochemistry. These aren't just random flukes. They are signals of a sophisticated intelligence at work. It suggests that human ingenuity has always been there, a constant spark of brilliance lighting up different corners of history in ways we are only just beginning to appreciate. So, where does this leave us? Are these artifacts proof of ancient aliens visiting our planet and bestowing advanced technology upon us? Or perhaps they are evidence of a lost global civilization, a real-life Atlantis that was wiped from the map. These are exciting theories, and they certainly make for great stories. But the truth might be something even more profound. It might be that we've simply underestimated our own ancestors. The intelligence wasn't hidden in some secret society or brought by extraterrestrials. It was right there, in plain sight, in the minds of the people who built the pyramids, charted the stars, and experimented with the world around them. The real mystery isn't necessarily how these objects were made, but why we are so surprised by them. Perhaps our modern sense of superiority has blinded us to the true capabilities of the ancient world. We assume we are the pinnacle of human achievement, but these objects are humble reminders that we are standing on the shoulders of giants whose true stature we may never fully comprehend. They whisper to us from across the ages, telling us that the story of humanity is far richer, more complex, and more mysterious than we could ever imagine. The past isn't just a settled story in a textbook. It's an active investigation, with new clues turning up all the time. What do you think? Are these artifacts proof of a lost civilization, alien intervention, or simply the forgotten genius of our ancestors? Have you ever held a smartphone and marveled at the technology? It's a product of immense precision, created by machines. But what if I told you that our distant ancestors, living hundreds of thousands of years ago, achieved incredible precision without any machines at all? Today, we're diving deep into the world of prehistoric craftsmanship to uncover the genius of our ancient relatives. Think about a stone tool like a hand axe. It might look simple, but the process of making one is anything but. This isn't just about smashing two rocks together. It's about understanding the properties of the stone, knowing exactly where to strike, at what angle, and with how much force. Each flake removed is a deliberate choice, a step towards a final, functional design. Archaeologists call this process knapping, and it's a skill that took years, maybe even a lifetime, to master. Some of the most iconic examples are the Achillean hand axes, which first appeared over 1.7 million years ago. These tools are often beautifully symmetrical, with a teardrop shape that's both practical and, you could say, aesthetically pleasing. To create this symmetry from a rough piece of flint or quartzite requires an incredible mental template. The maker had to visualize the final form within the raw material and execute dozens, if not hundreds, of precise strikes to achieve it. It's a level of hand-eye coordination and spatial reasoning that rivals that of modern-day surgeons or artists. What's even more mind-blowing is the consistency we see. We find these hand axes not just in one location, but across vast distances from Africa to Europe to Asia, and they look remarkably similar. This isn't a coincidence. It suggests that this wasn't just one brilliant individual's invention. It was a shared technology, a standardized design passed down through generations. Imagine a world without writing, without YouTube tutorials, without formal schools. How did they achieve this level of standardization? This brings us to the idea of ancient learning systems. The transmission of these complex skills almost certainly happened through a form of apprenticeship. Young individuals would have learned by watching, imitating, and receiving direct guidance from experienced toolmakers. It would have been a long hands-on process. A master napper would demonstrate the technique, correcting the learner's grip, posture, and striking motion. This is more than just monkey see, monkey do. It implies a capacity for teaching and a structured way of passing knowledge from one person to another, from one generation to the next. This process of learning and teaching had profound social implications. The ability to create high-quality tools would have been a valuable skill, conferring status upon the individual. A master toolmaker was essential to the group's survival. They produced the Swiss Army knives of the Paleolithic tools used for butchering animals, processing plants, digging, and woodworking. Their expertise was a community asset. Furthermore, the very existence of such specialized skills suggests a more complex social structure than we might imagine. For someone to dedicate enough time to become a master craftsman, others in the group likely supported them. This points towards a division of labor, where different individuals had different roles, some hunting, some gathering, some making tools. It's the beginning of the specialized societies we live in today. The tools weren't just objects. They were the glue holding their society together, a physical manifestation of their social bonds and shared culture. Let's look beyond hand axes. Consider the later stone tool technologies, like the blades from the Upper Paleolithic. These are long, thin, sharp flakes struck from a carefully prepared core. The technique to produce these, called pressure flaking, allows for even greater control and precision. The resulting blades could be used as they were or modified into an even wider array of specialized tools: spear points, knives, scrapers, and burins for engraving. We even see tools made from bone, antler, and ivory, carved with incredible detail. Think of delicate sewing needles with tiny, drilled eyes or intricate harpoon heads with barbs. These weren't just functional. They were often decorated with geometric patterns or animal figures, showing a burgeoning artistic sensibility. This artistic flair is crucial. It tells us that our ancestors weren't just surviving. They were thinking symbolically. They were creating a world rich with meaning. The patterns on a tool might have identified the owner, the clan, or held a spiritual significance we can only guess at. The precision wasn't just for function. It was also for expression. Now, let's consider the evidence of standardization from another angle: regional styles. Just like today, we can tell a car is from a certain manufacturer. Archaeologists can often identify the cultural signature of a set of tools. Different groups developed their own unique variations on tool-making themes. These distinct styles, found consistently within a geographic area, reinforce the idea of strong cultural traditions. It's like a prehistoric brand identity, a way of saying, this is who we are. This is how we do things. This cultural transmission is a hallmark of human behavior. So when we look at a prehistoric stone tool in a museum, we're not just looking at a rock. We are looking at the culmination of a sophisticated system of knowledge. We're seeing evidence of a teacher and a student. We're seeing proof of a mind that could plan, visualize, and execute complex actions with stunning precision. And we re-seeing the foundation of culture itself, the sharing of ideas and skills that allowed our ancestors to not only survive, but to thrive and spread across the entire planet. The next time you see a beautifully crafted object, whether it's a hand-carved piece of furniture or a meticulously designed piece of electronics, take a moment to think about the hand axe. Remember that the human drive for precision, for quality, for creating something both useful and beautiful is not a modern invention. It's a legacy that stretches back millions of years, a testament to the incredible ingenuity of the human mind, long before the first machine was ever built. When you think about our ancient ancestors, what comes to mind? Probably things like stone tools, hunting, and the daily struggle for survival. And you're not wrong, but that's only part of the story. What if I told you that some of the most important objects they created had nothing to do with staying alive? Let's travel back tens of thousands of years. Archaeologists dig up spearheads and cutting tools all the time. Their purpose is obvious. But then they find something different. A small, carved figurine. A piece of ochre with strange geometric lines etched into it. A necklace made of seashells found hundreds of miles from the nearest coast. These objects didn't help hunt a mammoth or build a shelter. So why did our ancestors spend precious time and energy making them? This is where the human story gets really interesting. These artifacts represent a massive leap in our cognitive evolution. The birth of symbolism. An object was no longer just a thing. It could represent an idea, a belief, a memory, or a connection to a group. Take the Lion Man figurine, found in a German cave and dated to around 40,000 years ago. Carved from mammoth ivory, it's a stunning piece of art depicting a human body with a lion's head. It's not a realistic portrayal of anything that existed. It's an abstract concept. Was it a deity? A shaman in a trance? We don't know for sure, but we know it meant something profound to the people who made it. It shows they could imagine worlds beyond the one they saw. This ability to think abstractly and assign meaning to symbols wasn't just a fun hobby. It was a revolutionary survival advantage. Imagine two early human groups. One group only communicates literally about food and danger. The other group uses symbols. They wear similar shell necklaces to show they belong to the same clan. They tell stories around the fire using carved figures to represent ancestors and spirits. They have a shared identity, A common mythology. Which group do you think will cooperate better? Which one will build stronger social bonds and be more resilient in a crisis? These symbolic objects were, in essence, a form of language before widespread writing. They were social glue. A unique bead or a specific carving style could say, "I'm one of you," or "My people are from over the mountains," or "This place is sacred." It was a way to communicate complex social information, build trust, and organize on a scale that was previously impossible. Sharing meaning allowed for the creation of larger, more cohesive communities. When you have a shared culture, you can rely on people you haven't even met, simply because they share your symbols and stories. This laid the groundwork for everything that followed: villages, cities, and civilizations. Think about the world around you today. Your country's flag is just colored cloth, but it represents a national identity. A wedding ring is just a metal band, but it symbolizes love and commitment. A cross or a star is just a shape, but it can represent an entire system of faith. Our lives are saturated with symbolic objects that give us a sense of belonging and purpose. We've inherited this trait directly from our ancient ancestors. They weren't just surviving. They were building worlds of meaning. The next time you see a seemingly simple artifact in a museum, a small carving or a string of beads, remember the incredible story it tells. It's the story of our ancestors looking beyond the immediate needs of survival to ask bigger questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? And what do we believe in? They weren't just tool makers. They were artists, philosophers, and storytellers. They were becoming human, in the fullest sense of the word. The objects they left behind aren't just relics of the past. They are the first chapters of our own story. Have you ever held an ancient artifact? A piece of pottery, a carved stone, or a simple flint tool? When we look at these objects, we often think about their practical uses, how they helped our ancestors hunt, cook, or build. But what if their most important function wasn't physical, but psychological? What if these artifacts were actually tools for the mind, essential for surviving the immense mental challenges of the prehistoric world? Imagine life tens of thousands of years ago. The world was a place of profound uncertainty. Every rustle in the bushes could be a predator. Every change in the weather could mean starvation. And then there was the ultimate certainty: death. How did our ancestors cope with the constant fear, the grief of losing loved ones, and the overwhelming mystery of existence itself? They didn't have philosophy books or therapy sessions. They had their hands, their communities, and the things they made. Let's start by thinking about the psychological landscape of our early ancestors. Their daily life was a high-stakes struggle for survival. This wasn't just about finding food and avoiding being eaten. It was about managing the intense emotional and cognitive load that came with it. The human brain, with its advanced capacity for foresight and memory, can be a double-edged sword. It allows us to plan and learn, but it also allows us to worry, to grieve, and to fear what lies ahead. Constant stress and anxiety are paralyzing. To function, to hunt, to raise children, our ancestors needed a way to regulate these powerful emotions. They needed mental stability in a world that offered none. This is where the concept of artifacts as tools of the mind becomes so powerful. Think about the process of making a stone tool. It's not just a quick smash of one rock against another. It's a deliberate, repetitive, and highly focused activity. The knapper has to select the right stone, understand its properties, and then strike it with precise force and angle again and again. This process, known as flint knapping, requires intense concentration. It pulls the mind into the present moment, away from anxieties about the future or traumas of the past. It's a form of active meditation. The rhythmic, predictable actions, the chip of stone on stone, could have been deeply calming, a way to impose order on a chaotic world. The finished tool was a physical reward, but the process itself was a psychological balm. This idea of repetition and ritual is key. Rituals are structured, repetitive behaviors that provide a sense of predictability and control. When we feel overwhelmed, we instinctively seek routine. Think about how we pace, or fidget, or clean when we're stressed. Our ancestors formalized this instinct. Many early artifacts seem to be connected to ritualistic behavior. Consider the countless beads made from shells, teeth, or stone found in ancient burial sites. Making a single bead could take hours of careful grinding and drilling. Making hundreds, or even thousands, for a necklace or a decorated garment would be a monumental investment of time and effort. Why? On one level, these beads were about identity and social signaling. But on a deeper level, The repetitive act of making them could have been a way to process difficult emotions, especially grief. Imagine a community mourning the loss of a member. The collective, repetitive work of crafting burial adornments would provide a shared focus, a structured activity to channel their sorrow. It transformed a passive experience of loss into an active process of creation. The finished objects then served as a tangible link to the person who was gone, a way to keep their memory alive and honor their place in the group. These weren't just decorations. They were anchors for a grieving mind. And what about the bigger, more abstract fears? The fear of the unknown, the fear of death, the mysteries of the cosmos. Prehistoric cave paintings like those at Lascaux or Chauvet are stunning works of art, but they likely served a much deeper purpose. Deep inside dark, silent caves, places that were difficult and dangerous to access, our ancestors painted powerful images of animals. These weren't just pictures of what they had for dinner. These were majestic, often supernatural-looking beasts. Creating these paintings was a ritual in itself. It involved gathering pigments, making brushes, and carrying flickering torches into the depths of the earth. In that sacred, enclosed space, the act of painting could have been a way to confront and gain a sense of control over the powerful, unpredictable forces of nature. By capturing the image of a bison or a lion, perhaps they felt they were capturing some of its spirit or creating a bridge between the human world and the spirit world. These paintings were a way to make sense of their reality, to give form to their fears and hopes, and to create a shared cosmology that bound the community together. The art wasn't just on the wall, it was a mental scaffold. This brings us to a crucial point: the role of objects as anchors of stability. Our minds crave continuity. We need to feel that we are part of something larger and more permanent than our own fleeting existence. The artifacts our ancestors created served this exact purpose. A carved figurine passed down through generations wasn't just a piece of bone or ivory. It was a physical embodiment of the family's lineage, a tangible connection to grandparents and great-grandparents. It held stories. It represented accumulated knowledge and ancestral wisdom. Holding that object was like holding hands with the past. In a world without written history, these artifacts were the libraries, the family albums, and the history books all rolled into one. They provided a sense of permanence and belonging, reminding individuals that they were part of a continuous chain, stretching from the ancestors of the past to the descendants of the future. Think about the Venus figurines, like the famous Venus of Willendorf. These small, portable sculptures of female figures, with exaggerated features, are found across vast areas of prehistoric Europe. For a long time, they were simply labeled as fertility idols, but their function was likely much more complex. For mobile hunter-gatherer groups, these figurines could have been a kind of social glue. As different groups met and interacted, these shared symbols would have signaled common beliefs and cultural connections. They were a passport, a sign that you belonged to a wider social network. In a world where your survival depended on cooperation, these little statues were a big deal. They provided psychological comfort, not just by representing fertility and the continuity of life, but by reinforcing the social bonds that kept people safe. So, when we look at an arrowhead, we should see more than just a hunting tool. We should see the focused mind that made it, the ritual that may have blessed it, and the stories it would tell. When we see ancient pottery, we should see more than just a cooking pot. We should see a vessel that not only held food but also held a family together, embodying the daily routines that create a sense of home and stability. These objects helped our ancestors navigate the internal world just as much as the external one. They were tools to manage anxiety, process grief, build community, and create meaning in a world full of terrifying unknowns. They were the original technology for mental health. The next time you see an ancient artifact in a museum, take a moment. Look beyond its physical form and try to imagine the mind that conceived it and the hands that shaped it. Think about the fears it helped to calm, the stories it helped to tell, and the sense of stability it provided. You're not just looking at a piece of the past. You're looking at a testament to human psychological resilience and a powerful reminder that for as long as we have been human, we have been using the things we create to shape our world and most importantly to shape our minds. Ever felt that pull, that irresistible urge to understand where we came from? We look at ancient artifacts, these silent storytellers from a bygone era, and we think our modern science can unlock all their secrets. But what if I told you that some of the greatest mysteries aren't just unsolved, they might be unsolvable? And that's exactly what makes them so important. Today, We diving deep into the enigmatic world of ancient artifacts and asking a crucial question. Why does the mystery still matter? Let's start with a hard truth. Many incredible objects from our past remain stubbornly unexplained. Think about the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek astronomical calculator of breathtaking complexity. For decades, we couldn't even fathom how it was made. We've made huge strides, but key questions about its purpose and construction still linger. Or consider the Voynich manuscript, a book filled with an unknown script and bizarre illustrations that has stumped the world's best cryptographers for over a century. Is it a lost language? A complex code? Or an elaborate ancient hoax? The reason so many of these artifacts defy explanation is simple. We've lost the context. Imagine someone 1,000 years from now finding a smartphone. They might figure out it's made of glass and metal. They might even deduce its basic electronic functions. But could they ever truly understand what it meant to us? Could they grasp the culture of social media, the feeling of a video call with a loved one, or the endless scroll of information at our fingertips? The cultural, spiritual, and social software that gave the object its true meaning is gone forever. The rich tapestry of oral traditions, rituals, and day-to-day beliefs that surrounded these ancient objects has vanished. We're essentially trying to read a single, torn-out page from a 1,000-volume encyclopedia. We can analyze the ink and the paper, but the story is incomplete. This brings us to the limits of our own modern interpretation. We are, all of us, products of our time. We look at the past through a lens tinted by our own experiences, our scientific worldview, our cultural biases. When we see intricate patterns, we might think of mathematics or engineering. But for an ancient culture, those same patterns could have represented a spiritual concept, a genealogical map, or a cosmic story. We risk what's called presentism, imposing our modern values and understanding onto the past. For example, we see the massive stones of Stonehenge and immediately ask, how did they move them? Our minds jump to logistics, physics, and engineering. And that's a valid question. But perhaps the more important question for the people who built it was why? Was it an act of devotion? A community-building project that spanned generations? A sacred calendar built not just to track the sun, but to connect with the divine? Our obsession with the how can sometimes blind us to the infinitely more profound why. We try to fit their square pegs into our round holes, assuming that ancient people thought just like us, only with fewer tools. This intellectual arrogance can prevent us from seeing the real picture. We are trying to translate a poem using a dictionary. We might get the words right, but the soul, the rhythm, the emotion that's lost in translation. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. Despite the vast gulf of time that separates us, there is a profound continuity, a thread that connects our minds to theirs. When we stand before a piece of Paleolithic cave art, we don't need a textbook to feel its power. The graceful lines of the bison, the dynamic sense of movement, we recognize the artistry. We feel the artist's intent to capture the essence of that animal, its power and its spirit. That aesthetic sense, that desire to create and communicate, is a fundamentally human trait that transcends time. Think about the universal symbols found across cultures that had no contact with one another: spirals, suns, handprints. These motifs speak to a shared human consciousness. Spiral might represent the cycle of life, the journey inward, or the cosmos. A handprint on a cave wall is a visceral, powerful statement. I was here. I existed. It's the same impulse that drives us to sign our name on a piece of art or carve our initials into a tree. It's a cry for permanence in a fleeting world. This connection isn't just intellectual, it's emotional. It's a spark of recognition across millennia, a reminder that the people who lived tens of thousands of years ago weren't primitive brutes. They were people just like us. They loved, they feared, they wondered, they dreamed, and they created. So, what do these enduring mysteries ultimately reveal about us, about humanity? They reveal that we are, and always have been, a species driven by meaning. We are not content to simply eat, sleep, and survive. We build pyramids aligned with the stars. We carve intricate calendars out of stone. We paint masterpieces deep within the earth where only a few would ever see them. Why? Because we have a deep-seated need to understand our place in the universe, to connect with something larger than ourselves, and to leave a legacy for those who come after us. These unexplained objects are mirrors. They reflect our own limitations, our own biases, and our own insatiable curiosity. They teach us humility. They force us to admit that we do not have all the answers, and that some things may forever lie beyond our grasp. And in a world that's increasingly obsessed with data, certainty, and instant gratification, that's an incredibly valuable lesson. The mystery is not a void to be filled. It's a space to be explored. It's a canvas for our imagination. The mystery keeps us questioning, keeps us searching, keeps us humble. It reminds us that the story of humanity is not a closed book, but a sprawling, epic narrative with many chapters still unread. These artifacts aren't just relics of the past. They are invitations to the future, urging us to keep digging, keep wondering, and keep trying to understand the most profound mystery of all, ourselves. They matter because they challenge us. They push the boundaries of our knowledge and force us to think beyond the comfortable and the known. They remind us that the world is, and always has been, a place of wonder. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. If you found this as fascinating as I do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. What ancient artifact mystifies you the most? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.